Hello, and welcome back to the 19th installment in a series of videos about the history of Japanese prints in the collection of Japanese works on paper at the Honolulu Museum of Art. I'm Stephen Salel, the curator of Japanese art. In this video, we will consider surprising ways in which the medium of Japanese woodblock printmaking has evolved at the turn of the 21st century. Previously, we talked about the artist Kawase Hasui and how he represented the new print movement, known in Japanese as Shinhanga. Amidst the country's intense westernization at the end of the 19th century, and alongside the importation of such modern technology as etching, lithography, and photography, the general public's appreciation of traditional woodblock printing lessened. In the medium's defense, Hasui and his comrades produced works that displayed the high level of craftsmanship that a print could achieve through the hanmoto system, the division of labor between a carver, a printer, a publisher, and a designer such as himself. In another previous video, we discussed the creative prints movement, Mokuhanga in Japanese, and the work of one of its representatives, the abstract artist Onshi Koshiro. Onshi and other proponents of this movement embraced the individualistic spirit that characterized much of Western modernism at that time. In their opinion, a Japanese woodblock printmaker ought to express his or her personal spirit by independently designing his or her imagery, carving his or her blocks, inking them, and printing them. Although the use of the term Shinhanga largely waned in the final decades of the 20th century, woodblock print specialists who utilized the hanmoto system, such as the staff of Adachi Institute of Woodblock Prints, have remained active, whether focusing upon the publication of original contemporary works, such as this print by Kusama Yayoi, or upon the reproduction of famous ukiyo-e prints from the Edo period. Likewise, although the term Sosakuhanga is used far less frequently nowadays than it was in the mid-20th century, many artists continue to produce prints independently, taking responsibility for every step in the printmaking process. With recent improvements in print technology, such an approach to woodblock printing is much easier and more efficient than it was a few decades ago. The greatest obstacle hindering either movement in its quest for international public recognition was its aura of cultural exclusivity. Although Charles Bartlett, Elizabeth Keith, Bertha Lum, and Paul Jacolet were active in the New Prints movement, and although Uchima Ansei and Marion Korn participated in the creative print movement, Western artists were otherwise largely absent from both communities up until the 1980s. As international travel became easier, an increasing number of Western artists devoted themselves to the authentic study of Japanese-style woodblock printmaking, while, conversely, many Japanese artists decided to embrace a more international style. From amidst the former art community, the international Mokuhanga movement, Mokuhanga being the Japanese term for woodblock prints, emerged during the late 20th century. One of the earliest proponents of the international Mokuhanga movement was Kathan Brown, co-founder of Crown Point Press. In 1982, in commemoration of Crown Point's 20th anniversary, Brown began to escort American artists to Kyoto to collaborate with traditional woodblock print specialists there. Over the following 7 years, numerous artists participated, including Helen Frankenthaler, Wayne Thiebaud, and Chuck Close, whose work is shown here. Though the Crown Point Press project ended in 1989, soon thereafter other opportunities to learn about Japanese printmaking became available to Western artists. One was at Tokyo University of the Arts, where Tetsuya Noda headed the woodblock department from 1991 until his retirement in 2007. Noda's own work has long centered upon his diary series, which he began in 1968 and continues to this day. Each image in the series is based upon something that the artist happened to see in his daily life, and the print's title indicates the date on which he saw it. As one might expect, therefore, the imagery in his work is fairly mundane. His wife sitting in a chair, his daughter holding her blanket, a package that arrived in the mail, some fruits placed on a cushion, and an occasional self-portrait. Noda's multifaceted working method often incorporates silkscreen, lithography, and woodblock printing, as well as other forms of relief printing. In this way, despite their restricted palette, his images are deceptively complex. During his tenureship at Tokyo University of the Arts, in keeping with the school's mission to promote Japan's artistic traditions, Noda invited master printers from the Adachi Institute to offer studio demonstrations to his students. In 1998, he furthermore taught woodblock printmaking at Columbia University's Leroy Neiman Center for Print Studies. An equally passionate advocate of woodblock printing has been Akira Kurosaki, head of the printmaking department at Kyoto Seika University from 1987 until his retirement in 2007. His own work typically includes bold, brilliantly colored, geometric shapes floating against a black background. The way in which he positions these shapes sometimes creates a sense of deep architectural space, as seen in his Red Darkness series from 1970. In other prints, shapes are arranged in a way reminiscent of a classical still life painting. During the early 1980s, Kurosaki produced a series of prints that evoked traditional Chinese landscape paintings. He even occasionally included Chinese inscriptions in the compositions. Though the abstract, modernist appearance of Kurosaki's artwork brings to mind the Mokuhanga style of printmaking, Kurosaki's interest in reviving Japanese woodblock traditions aligns him much more closely with the Shinhanga movement. In particular, Kurosaki emphasized the importance of the Hanmoto division of labor in a print studio. Part of the training he offered students at Kyoto Seika University was guidance towards roles within the Hanmoto system, particularly those of carver or printer. One of his former students, Yasu Shibata, now works as a master printer at Pace Prints in New York City, where he employs traditional Mokuhanga techniques. Other students of Kurosaki include Rebecca Salter, the current keeper of the Royal Academy of Arts in London, and Ralph Kigel, a British artist based in Thailand. In 1997, responding to the enthusiasm by such advocates as Kathan Brown, Tetsuya Noda, and Akira Kurosaki, Keiko Kadota, co-founder of the Center for the Science of Human Endeavor, CFSHI, created the Nagasawa Art Park in Awaji City, Hyogo Prefecture. There, several print artists from various countries were invited each year for a 2-month-long residency program. Over the following 12 years, 78 artists from 30 countries participated in the program. In 2011, the Nagasawa Art Park project was dissolved, and in its place, Kadota founded the Mokuhanga Innovation Laboratory, MiLab, a residency program based in Fuji Kawaguchi-ko, a resort town in Yamanashi Prefecture near both Mount Fuji and Lake Kawaguchi. From its humble beginning in that year, during which 3 artists participated, the program has grown substantially. In 2019, 30 artists, divided according to their technical abilities, resided at MiLab. Noteworthy participants in the program include the Korean-American artist Yoon-mi Nam, the New York-based artist and author April Vollmer, the German printmaker Eva Petzker, the African-American artist Jennifer Mack-Watkins, and the Irish-American multimedia specialist Patty Huddock. One highlight of traditional Japanese woodblock printmaking that the organizers of MiLab emphasize is the fact that the water-based materials are non-toxic and environmentally friendly. While focusing primarily upon woodblock printmaking, the instructors also offer information on various traditional Japanese art formats, including hand scrolls, folding screens, and various kinds of books. In coming years, the MiLab staff plans to offer tutorials in papermaking and the production of artists' books. In conjunction with the establishment of MiLab, the International Mokuhanga Association was founded to organize triennial conferences throughout the world. Their first gathering in 2011 was held in Kyoto and Awaji City. The featured exhibition at that conference was entitled Mokuhanga, Dialogue and Dialect. Among the presenters was the Kyoto-based print artist Takenaka Kenji. The 2014 conference was held in Tokyo. Demonstrations were offered by several print specialists, including Makoto Nakayama of Sato Mokuhanga Studio in Kyoto, as well as by Meo Saito, professor at Tokyo University of the Arts. And roughly 35 artists participated in an open portfolio exhibition. The 2017 conference, the association's first event outside of Japan, was held at University of Hawaii at Manoa in Honolulu. It was spearheaded by artists Setsuko and Hiroki Morinoue, co-founders of the Donkey Mill Art Center in Holualoa, Hawaii. Additional workshops were offered at the Donkey Mill Art Center. The juried exhibition that year was entitled Beauty of Mokuhanga, Discipline and Sensibility. One of the keynote speakers at the conference was the Hawaii-based Japanese printmaker Mayumi Oda, and one of the papers presented there was by the Scottish printmaker Paul Binney. While inclusivity is one prominent aspect of the international Mokuhanga movement, Some important contemporary woodblock printmakers not yet associated with the organization include the Hawaii-based Masami Teraoka and the Tokyo-based printmaker David Bull. They will certainly be warmly welcomed at future conferences, such as the association's 2021 meeting scheduled to be held in Nara. In our next and final video, we will contemplate ways in which Japanese woodblock prints produced over the 250-year history of ukiyo-e continue to influence our international visual culture.